These are categories now applied by English departments and scholars to divide the sorts of novels that have been written since the 19th century. Realism, basically, is a focus on observable reality, on what you see right in front of you.
I saw her across the room.
It was a horrible party. It was in the basement of some fraternity, and
it was one of those great parties.
Everyone was super drunk and drinking that horrible red punch that if you spill it on anything, it stains everywhere.
In the beginning of the 20th century, an Irish short story writer, Frank O'Connor, defined it as the mirror in the roadway.
She was so exciting and full of life, and I saw the way that she talked to people, and she was so captivating. And
we ended up talking for a really long time, and by the end of the night, I had my back against the wall, and he was leaning on the wall in front of me, and by then I sort of knew that I was being hit on.
I just felt like we had this connection.
We were reading The Wasteland, and he had read it before, but I had never read it before. The first line, April is the cruelest month. Maybe because it was April, I don't know.
I was really excited to go out with her more.
But it really struck me.
I had to be with her. I knew that there was no one else who I would be that good of a fit with.
I don't know. It was one of those warm nights in the end of the spring when I sort of felt like everybody's let down their guard a little bit. You don't have to defend yourself against the weather anymore. So maybe we were a little more open than we otherwise would have been.
So I ended up asking her to marry me.
This guy seemed very kind and responsible and steady, and that was appealing. I don't know.
The story of the novel, Effi Briest at its heart, is the story of a young woman who grows up in Berlin.
He was good to me, and I knew he'd be able to provide the kind of life that I wanted. And so we got married, and we had a beautiful house, and everything seemed like it was set up to be perfect.
Husband and wife living a miserable existence.
She was an amazing wife.
Make your wife happy, check.
I just started to fall more and more in love with her.
But there was just one problem, which is that he could never satisfy me. When we had sex,
I really enjoyed the time that we spent together.
Even of our wedding night.
It was really loving.
Even though I'd gone out and with a girlfriend and bought some really cute underwear, he just fell asleep right next to me.
As time went on, I felt like I couldn't live without her.
I don't think he was really even that interested in pleasure. He just did it to get something done.
We had a great relationship, but
I guess he thought of it as a need, I don't know, eating a granola bar when you're hungry or something.
It seemed like that she started to...
The classic plot of Karenina and of Bovary and of Effi Briest, that a woman has an affair, and that affair ultimately brings her down.
I found out that she had,
I realized that his friend Joseph was someone who I was attracted to, and I thought that part of my body, my life was so shut down. It was kind of a shock to be attracted to someone.
They are brought down by their adultery, but they are brought down by their adultery because they're basically, when it comes to the end of it, powerless. Effi Briest is powerless.
I found some letters.
Just kept noticing the way his hands were holding the spoon, or the way he was sipping from his cup of coffee. And
he's an artist.
At the end of the afternoon, when Joseph asked me if I wanted to come and help him with one of his art projects, I said yes.
From my best friend from when we were kids, to Sophie.
Just the way that he touched me, I knew that I would respond in a way that I never had with Dante and convince myself that I didn't need to.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, I couldn't believe it.
As soon as we were alone together, and sometimes even walking down the street, we would always be touching.
With my wife. Her kissing him, and I just kept seeing her face and her reacting and her feeling pleasured by him, and it was just sickening, but I couldn't stop myself from thinking about it.
Why do people have affairs?
Maybe even this could save my marriage, because the things that I couldn't get from my marriage, I could just get this way and then still be a good wife.
In those books, the suggestion is there's nowhere else for a woman to go.
I mean, why would you do that to me? You've slept with so many women in the world.
One of the things you have to know about that plot is that those novels could only succeed in what they were doing when adultery was of significance, couldn't be written.
When I started sleeping with Joseph, I realized that I'd forgotten that sex could be that good, that it was possible to feel completely transported by it.
It was too dirty. It was too much of a betrayal. I just knew I couldn't be with somebody who would do that to me.
In 21st century America, because adultery doesn't mean what it once did.
Everyone would know. Everyone would be gossiping about it.
I just kept having to make up wilder and wilder stories.
You know what? I'm going to play by the rules.
I felt Dante come up behind me.
And just man to man, talk to him.
After it had been going on for 8 months, I just couldn't really take it anymore.
And he didn't even care. It was like, I didn't even know why he showed up. He wasn't regretful. He didn't have any remorse. He wasn't apologetic. I mean, why even meet me?
I had to leave him. I had to go. I had to tell him. I had to move in with Joseph.
Thérèse Raquin, murder story. In American fiction, I think the closest to it may be something like The Postman Always Rings Twice.
That's actually not what happened.
Over and over and over again, because at their heart, they've got a lot of melodrama in them.
I killed him. We killed him. Joseph and I,
two people come together to murder a third?
We rowed out into the middle of the lake, and Joseph pushed him into the water. And the two of us, we just watched him drown.
I kind of lost it. I started screaming at him, like, why would you do this?
We can stand the same story endlessly.
I grabbed him by his shoulders, and I kind of shook him like I just kind of was like, wanted to wake him up.
Murder in our country, murders of passion, are fairly commonplace.
I shoved him right off the dock. I pushed him right off the dock.
We were both so scared, and I was just sick everywhere.
The murder, the passions of the murder, for a while really light up that book.
I had been drowning and opening my mouth underwater to scream, but all the water would come in, and I had this dream almost every night.
As far as I know, Effi Briest was based on people that Fontane actually knew, and Raquin was based on a newspaper account. They take that reality and make it into their own.
I was trying to go to confession all the time. I would go to confession even though I'd never been to church before, and talk about things like, wanting sex not for procreative purposes and stuff like that. And I didn't care about those things, but I wanted to be able to talk about guilt with someone.
I watched him. I just watched him drown. I just let him. I killed him.